Xabi Alonso is Real Madrid's signing of the season. Real Madrid topped the group at the Club World Cup and will now face Juventus in the round of 16. This is the third game of the season, and this is already the third formation and the third tactical approach that Xabi Alonso uses for this Real Madrid squad. Today, we saw the team come out with the same starting 11 as last week, with the exception being Asensio is out of the starting lineup and Rudiger was brought in. We saw the team transition into a 3-5-2 formation, which is something that we've talked about in this channel before. The beautiful thing about Tchouaméni is that he allows the squad to have so much flexibility. If Xabi Alonso wants to transition into a 4-4-2, all he needs to do is let Tchouaméni know to push further up the pitch, or if we need to drop down to a 3-5-2 like today's game, just drop Tchouaméni further down the pitch and create that defensive line with the three center backs. Now, apart from the formation, the tactical approach was also different. We saw a very high pressure system in which Vini and Gonzalo Garcia were pressuring higher up the pitch along with Jude Bellingham and even Valverde. We saw Fran Garcia on the left hand side acting as a left mid. We saw Trent Alexander-Arnold acting as the right mid, and we saw the clear three-back line with Tchouaméni, Rudiger, and Dean Huijsen. Trent Alexander-Arnold and Fran Garcia pushing very high up the pitch, joining Fede Valverde, Arda Güler, and Jude Bellingham to form that midfield line and play that pressure high up the pitch, not allowing the opponent to have any second to think and play out from the back. The thing about the 3-5-2 is that if the team's pressure fails up high at the pitch, the players can transition relatively quickly, get back into the box, play a deeper block system, and have Trent Alexander-Arnold and Fran Garcia form a line of 5 defenders with 3 midfielders in front and the 2 strikers in Gonzalo Garcia and Vini Jr. Something that I remembered and noticed throughout the match is that Rudiger is very used to this 3 at the back system because he played it with Chelsea. As we all know, Rudiger is a very aggressive defender, and this leads to him being out of position at times. 3 at the back formation encourages that aggressive defending because we always have a player ready to fill that gap. In fact, there was a couple times when Fran Garcia was caught up on the left-hand side and one of the center backs was out of position, usually Rudiger, then you'd have Trent pinch in and form that 3 center back line. There was a couple instances where we got counterattacked. Dean Huijsen and Tchouaméni were beat, and we still had a 3rd center back in Rudiger coming in to close that line. I mentioned before, Arda Güler is typically that deep line playmaker. This formation today, once again, we noticed that, but he was sharing the responsibility with Tchouaméni. And I mentioned this in a previous video. Tchouaméni's passing ability and flexibility tactically is going to be absolutely crucial. Passing ability was absolutely key in the opening minutes. He was distributing the ball over to Trent Alexander-Arnold or over to Fran Garcia, playing that quick ball wide and getting us into a great position to transition. And this can also be said for Dean Huijsen. Dean Huijsen has an absolutely amazing passing ability. The 3 at the back formation allows him to get into that gap and play a direct ball over to the striker in Vini Jr. or play the ball over to Arda Güler to help transition quicker. And I gotta say, I absolutely love the 3-5-2 today. There's just so much flexibility that this team can take advantage. We can either pressure in a high pressure system like we saw, we can come back defensively, play a lower block, have the 5 defenders with 3 midfielders in front. Defensively, we saw that, of course. And then in the attack, we have a high pressure system, so we typically win the ball higher up the pitch. But if we are in that lower block defensively, win the ball, we can transition quite easily. The way our center mids are set up, Tchouaméni at the base of that defensive role, we can play out of the back relatively easily. We saw that a couple times today. We saw that in the one-on-one that Vini missed early on in the game. We saw that in the goal. We saw that in a couple other opportunities that the team had. What news about today is that Vini got on the scoreline and played a great match. We also had Gonzalo Garcia perform and score yet again. Now, I do want to note, Rodrigo was missing from the starting lineup for the 2nd match in a row. This is quite interesting because, as you know, Rodrigo did not go to the national team. Rodrigo did not play the last few matches with Real Madrid in the season, so he's absolutely fresh. There's no injuries. There's no mental issue. He's been integrated into the squad. Xabi Alonso has confirmed that this is a tactical decision. The money that was invested in Enric, with the money that was invested in Franco, that right wing position is going to be covered. You now have Gonzalo Garcia, who's knocking on the door to get that striker position as well, who Enric can cover as well. But this leaves no place for Rodrigo. And as I've mentioned before, the club absolutely needs to raise some funds and I think Rodrigo is going to be first on that list. So Real Madrid did top this group, which means they're on the bracket with Juventus. They will be playing on Tuesday, and they will face the winner of Dortmund and Monterrey if they manage to get past Juventus. Personally, I think this bracket is going to be perfect for Real Madrid. We have a decent team in Juventus. We have a decent team in Dortmund that's likely going to beat Monterrey. Once we get to the semifinals, that's when we'll be 5 games in with Xabi Alonso going into the 6th, and that's where we'll really get tested, possibly facing a top team like PSG. All in all, I'm very optimistic about this Real Madrid team. I think Xabi Alonso has shown that yes, some reinforcements were needed, especially on the defensive side, but ultimately the tactical approach and the tactical awareness of these players can completely transition a team. I mean, if this was Carleto Ancelotti, we would still be playing a 4-3-3 system, and Xabi Alonso has shown that he's not dedicated to a specific system. We saw the 4-3-3 in the first match, we saw the 4-4-2 in the second match, and we saw a clear defined 3-5-2 for today's match, and today being the game in which Real Madrid performed the best so far. So let's keep in mind, Xabi Alonso does have Kylian Mbappe coming back next week, confirmed. He does have Endrick coming in to start training with the team. He has Camavinga, Carvajal, all pretty advanced in their injuries. Only exception for this would be Ferland Mendy. And I've been constantly speaking about Fran Garcia and how he's going to be important to the squad. And I think this 3-5-2 absolutely defined what I was talking about. Fran Garcia is a very dedicated player who's a workhorse as well. He'll push forward all day long. He'll attack the line, which is what this 3-5-2 needs, but he'll also transition defensively relatively quickly. He has the pace. He's not the best defensively, but he has the work rate, the pace, and the drive to play this position to perfection. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't think he's at the very top level to compete against a top team like PSG, like Manchester City, like Barcelona. I think those squads will tap into his weakness, but he absolutely has a role in the squad. I mean, this 3-5-2 would not be the same if we had Ferland Mendy playing that same role that we had Fran Garcia in. There you have it. Real Madrid wins the last game of the group stage 3-0 in a very convincing win. Everyone performed to the top level. There's really no name that I can call out that had a disappointing game today. It was absolutely phenomenal to watch and very exciting to see Xabi Alonso implement his style. Now, in your opinion, who was the man of the match today? And do you think Kylian Mbappe will start over Gonzalo Garcia versus Juventus on Tuesday?